A storm is imminent. We have had enough water, but I've got this towel here in case it starts. We're telling you about a nasty landlord named Talia in the village of Chatham, about a bully justice there in the village of Chatham named George C. Dixon, and his wife, who is the clerk of the same court, and about their liar for hire, James Kleinbaum. And this is a very long paper. We're going to try to do pages 41 up to 60 right now. There's 220 pages. So unless you're intensely interested in landlord-tenant, I would go to another channel. This is Glendora, Chat with Glendora on 42 TP Systems. 184 Sigma. March the 24th, Wednesday at 11:40 a.m. Natalia crossed Glendora's threshold. The signs clearly said, "Do not enter," and "Possession is by the tenant." Natalia violated Glendora's possession of the premises. She rapped at the inner door and shouted, "Please open the door. We are not coming today, we are coming tomorrow." She taped another paper to the window. If any claim of 24-hour notice becomes relevant, this was not 24-hour notice. Natalia left the premises of which Glendora has possession. At 1 p.m., this is tall, these are Greek letters. At 1 p.m., Glendora knocked on a neighbor's door. "I'll be right out." We had set this time to take a load to the Glendora Franklin Museum. The neighbor began loading the museum boxes, the rugs, the desks, the cabinets, the folding chairs, et al., until we had filled his truck and Glendora's car. During that hour, 1 to 2 p.m., Natalia was wandering over the property, around and around Glendora's abode, outside in the company of a stranger whom she never identified. She kept getting in Glendora's way as Glendora was trying to get the museum articles located into the vehicles. The neighbor had only from 1 p.m. to 2:45 p.m. to do the job, and there was no other time he could do it. The point is that Glendora wanted to get Natalia off the premises and wanted to call the police, but Glendora had to forego the same because a museum job would not get done. Glendora videotaped Natalia and stranger. Natalia kept getting in Glendora's way. Glendora was bringing out an article through the open door, and Natalia closed it. Natalia actually picked up a possession of Glendora, a 2-gallon gas jug, and did something with it. It disappeared. Natalia would leave the property with the man, stranger. Glendora would heave a sigh of relief that she was gone, and then she and the man would return, and Glendora would become stressed again. This happened at least 3 times. When Glendora was standing inside the premises, Natalia and stranger went by the window and looked in. Natalia left, the stranger stayed, and took photos of Glendora's possessions in the neighbor's truck. This was invasion of privacy, and took photos of me in my home. Natalia also took pictures of Glendora at Glendora's home, which also is a charge of invasion of privacy. Glendora will include in her lawsuit against Natalia et al. Natalia was spying and was finding out things that Glendora did not want Natalia to know. She insulted Glendora and said, "She put down fertilizer, that's why it smells so bad." Well, Glendora did not put down fertilizer. During the entire hour of Natalia's intrusion with a stranger, never identified, Glendora did not speak to either. Regardless of the invasion, Glendora concentrated on getting the right articles into the museum. The moving of these articles was something Glendora decided on long before the Natalia insanity erupted, March the 18th, Thursday, the day after St. Patrick's Day. These articles were not in use daily and are to be preserved and perpetuated in the museum. The moving of them started Sunday, March the 21st, the vernal equinox. Another neighbor took so many boxes of files and tapes to the museum. The job was consummated the day after Natalia's snooping, March the 24th, Wednesday visit. A third neighbor did the third trip to the museum. The neighbors were wonderful. The museum is all set now, and the job is done. This is Section Upsilon. March the 25th, Thursday, Glendora was alert and vigilant, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., making sure to be on her premises and to protect them from Natalia's threatened invasion. Posted on Glendora's window yesterday. The time was not wasted during the vigil. Glendora progressed productively on a legal paper. 11:30 a.m. rolled by, a half an hour to go before, and Glendora was hoping that Natalia and technician Ed, he's a handyman, she called him a technician, and he put the faucet on backwards, had thought better of it. Glendora had placed a barricade of shovels, tubs, and a roller table inside her outside door. The door continued to have the signs on it, "Do not enter, possession is by the premises," is by the tenant. The audio tape recorder and the videotape recorder were in position and standing by, and the telephone numbers were in view. But alas, we didn't make it until the noon deadline. At 11:44 a.m., Natalia and Ed crossed the threshold. Additionally, they touched and handled Glendora's possessions. It was break and enter. Natalia knocked on the door and said, "Please open the door." Glendora did not and said nothing. Instead, she dialed 392-3451, Chatham Police, and said, "This is an emergency. The landlord is trying to come onto my premises. I'm the tenant, and I have possession of the premises. The landlord is allowed on the premises only in cases of extreme emergency. There is no extreme emergency. I am terrified." The woman who answered said, "I'll send somebody immediately. What is your name?" "Glendora." "Thank you, officer. What is your name?" She says, "I'm Darlene, and I'm a secretary." The phone desk from which Glendora summoned the police is just inside the door where Natalia and Ed were standing. She could easily hear Glendora summoning the police. Natalia and Ed speedily retreated. He got in his green truck in the driveway as fast as he could, and she got into her black truck behind it, instantly backed out of the driveway, never to be seen or heard from again. At last, we taught her what possession of the premises means. She can't have both. If she wants the money, I'll sell her back the possession of the premises. But if she wants possession of the premises, she has to give me the money. Why? Why were they so petrified of the police? What had they done wrong to get out of the way so quickly? Reader, you know, violation of possession of the premises, violation of warranty of habitability, and violation of repetitive harassment, inter alia. Note, that's what you just witnessed. 5. The police did not come until nearly 15 minutes. Had the policeman stopped at Natalia's office is halfway between the police station and Glendora's home. The officer was Michael McDowell, the one who had done the insufficient service on Glendora. Glendora cordially welcomed him in, opening both doors widely for him. He saw the TV camera, and he says, "It's pretty gray up there. Not that we need rain." "Am I being taped?" he said. I said, "Yes. Is that all right?" He said, "No." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry. You're in my home." We are on page 50 out of 220. Glendora repeated verbatim what she had said to Darlene 15 minutes ago. The knob on the inner door was being turned. McDowell reached to open it. Glendora says, "Don't open that door." Glendora hastily said. Before she could stop it, a man entered. "This is my house." "I'm Chief Bone," said he. Why was it necessary to have the chief there? McDowell said immediately, We are being recorded. The chief says, oh, that's okay. Glendora has noticed the sensitivity of police being recorded the past 3 years. Why is this, folks? I think it's because of the Rodney King taping in Los Angeles. Glendora repeated what she had just said to McDowell, and she repeated it to Bone, and what she had just told Darlene. Captain Bone said the landlord could inspect premises if a 24-hour notice was given, and Glendora says no. The law says only in extreme emergency. That would indicate that he did stop at Natalia's, and Natalia told him that, and he was taking it on hearsay. McDowell said, and also if the landlord wants to show the place, and Glendora said adamantly, the law says only in an extreme emergency. She mentioned the New York State Real Property Law and the New York State Real Property Actions and Proceedings Law. Can you hear it? The angels bowling? Chief Bone said, I recommend you see your attorney about this. Glendora says, no. I am pro se. A second time Bone said, I recommend you see your attorney about this, and Glendora said, no. Now, it does not seem right that the police should drum up business for attorneys, and I object to that. Do you? It's raining. How do you spell your name? Glendora asked the chief, and he says B-O-E-H-M-E. Oh! Glenn thought of the Italian opera, La Boheme, the popular Italian opera. Oh, it's so beautiful. The leaves just coming out on the trees, and the leaves that beautiful tender green. Shall we tough it out for another page on 52? Bohm left as fast as, and as something as he arrived. Bohm left as fast and as wordlessly as he arrived. Glendora, as she exited with McDowell, said, thank you for answering a citizen's summons. Said McDowell, call us anytime you need us. He's kind of cute. That ended the illicit encroachments of nasty Natalia. For the first time in days, Glendora had peace, quiet, serenity, and safety, enjoyment of the premises of which she had possession, vis-a-vis her warranty of habitability, and the harassment had stopped. See you folks, it's too much for the camera. We'll go inside. Stand still. Okay, let's continue. We're going to put a flag here, the flag that George McDermott gave me. He brought me a flag all the way up from Washington, D.C., and a very expensive flag, folks. Look, very, very expensive. Really well stitched and really nice. See how well made it is? And I said, you know, I was amazed that he had spent so much money. And he said the nicest thing that anybody's ever said to me. He says, that's right, you earned it. Fighting for your country. Well, thank you. Thank you, thank you. That ended the illicit encroachments of nasty Natalia. For the first time in days, Glendora had peace, quiet, security and safety, enjoyment of the premises of which she had possession, vis-a-vis her warranty of habitability, and the harassment had stopped. She finally learned a lesson, nasty Natalia. Glendora asked several neighbors to serve the second summons on Natalia, and they demurred. Well, I don't blame them. Finally, Glendora asked an adventuresome young man if he would serve the summons for $20. That made the difference. He did, with alacrity. She gave him the audio tape records, the recorder. Brat's sister Lydia said, I don't want this. And Brat, young man, says, I don't care. Natalia called him into her office and interviewed him. And this is on the audio tape. He came back to Glendora and both went to the bank and had the service notarized. Natalia was served in persona. Insert. This is Psi. Greek letter. March the 21st, Sunday, after chores, writing the 110-page complaint against Natalia, and after church, and after finishing writing her 110-page complaint, page 25, within, Glendora called all the apartment rentals in the 7 newspapers that she bought. About $3.50 worth of newspapers. And she made an appointment for 5:30 p.m. Monday. Weeny, weedy, winky. She came, she saw, she conquered. She placed a deposit on it, and on Wednesday, March the 22nd, after the neighbor had got the second load to the museum, even though it was the first one I saw. I loved it, and I took it. First one. Even though Natalia continuously harassed Glendora for an hour, Glendora got out 2 money orders to take possession of her new premises. Here is the paper that the young man served on Nasty Natalia, Village of Chatham, Preferred Country Properties. Where Glendora sued Nasty Natalia for $3,000. Omega. Thursday, March the 25th, after Natalia was served, Glendora's small claims action, scheduled for April 13th, a third neighbor took the furniture and the bed to the new place. The neighbor and his friend took the last of the furniture to the museum. Neighbor and friend took the last of the furniture to the new place. The rest I could do. We were rid of Nasty Natalia. Friday, March the 26th was a day of peace, with no harassment by Natalia, no violation of warranty of habitability, except the mud, and no violation of Glendora's possession. She settled in the new place, and she took file boxes to the museum. What day was that, folks? March the 26th, Friday. This background will look a great deal better when we put up the flag. Saturday, March the 27th at 7 a.m., Glendora took 20 file boxes to the museum. I did that home. When she returned, she packed the clothes and emptied the drawers in the 2 bedrooms. She took this them, I guess, and positioned them, another 20 boxes, and mid-afternoon, she did another. I did this all by myself. 2 trip of 20 boxes, 60 for the day, and positioned them. Everything fit nicely. Now, I think that ability to lift all those heavy boxes, some of them 30, 40 pounds, I think that ability comes from doing those little morning exercises that I've been doing for years every morning. I do those exercises. I showed them to you once. And Saturday evening, March the 26th, Glendora emptied the kitchen articles into the boxes, all of the same size and shape, uniform and neat, and they were ready to be mailed. And that was the last night that I slept with the kitties. Penny, and Sheba, and Christina, and Chase, and Charlotte. That was our last night together. By mistake, Glendora left a blue bale pail square under the kitchen sink. She also left a red 3-foot by 2-foot scatter rug on top of the second stoop into the inner door. She would like both of these back. Their costs were $6 and $12 and show wear, and she retrieved the pot and soil with the plants on Tuesday, March the 30th. Well, I never got them back, and I never will, because we're not dealing with honest people. We're dealing with renegades, reprobates. Beta, beta. Sunday morning after chores, Glendora took a load of 20 boxes to her new place. It was around 7 a.m. Then she took another load of 20 boxes to the museum. It was Sunday, March the 28th, and it was church time. And she went to service. First time I'd ever been late. She came to the old place. The 3 kids, Courtney and Devin and Megan, were sad to see her leaving, and they cried. With their help, the last of the boxes, 20 equals 60 total for the day, were loaded, and all remaining articles cleared out except the 2 forgotten pieces mentioned in Alpha L. Glendora positioned these 20 boxes, and all looked very nice. She came back to the old place and took care of the second car. She vacated the premises at 6:45 p.m., March the 28th, Sunday, 2004. She put this notice through the office door, 19 Central Square, Chatham, 12037, of the Natalia Enterprise. Glendora vacated the premises 29B Center Street, Chatham, Sunday night at 6:45 p.m., March the 28th, 2004, Anno Domini. Please mail to her $15 for March the 29th, $15 for March the 30th, and $15 for March the 31st, together with her security deposit of $435 plus 9% statutory interest from June 15th, 2003. You have 3 days to do this. Her designated address is Glendora, Box 124, Ghent, New York, 12075. Glendora will mail you the key 3 days after she receives payment in full as detailed super. Yours in truth, and in Armo Patriae, Glendora, 914-949-9495. Glendora slept in her new place, and she slept nicely the first night in her new premises, March the 28th, Sunday. Okay, folks, that's our quota for right now. What are you going to do? You want to stay up and listen to this? Go on and on and on and on, but I'm sorry, a record has to be made of it. I certainly don't want to do it. So, Marilyn says, whenever I'm down in the dumps, I buy new clothes. And one of the other ladies says, I was wondering where she got them. Sign in the restaurant window, do not make fun of our coffee. Someday you will be old and weak, too. Hokey smokes. Stop right where we are. We have to rejoice. Let's rejoice for that beautiful rain, even though we don't need it. And we haven't needed it every day, practically, since last summer. And I think that's my fault. When poor Frankie was breathing his last few months, and it was 97 degrees every day and 97% humidity, he would sing his little rain song, asking for rain, and I would pray for rain. And so it's all my fault. It's been raining ever since. That would be 2 years ago. That was in the year 2002. And it rained every day practically ever since. And that means that somebody is not getting the rain that they need, that we're getting it all, and that's not nice. And Marilyn said about her brother-in-law that he's worn that suit so many years that it's come into style 3 times. And why do they call the Judge Sanka? No active ingredient in the bean. And today's college graduates, you have to feel sorry for them. They go out in the cold, cruel world, folks, and they face enormous challenges. And 2 of those are reading and writing. And one college is graduating so many functional illiterates that they're putting their diplomas on cassettes. And Bill said that when he was in college, he kept the women running in circles, and his wife says, yes, he was a track coach. You know, we have BA, right? And we have BS, you know what that stands for. And we have MBA, what does that stand for? More bad advice. And PhD stands for what? Piled higher and deeper. The college athletic department has 3 doors. One says, if you're too tall to go through to this door, report to the basketball coach. If you're too wide to go through this door, report to the football coach. And if you kicked in this door, report to the hockey coach. And this guy had a girl out on the first date, and she said, what do you do? And he says, I'm on the cutting edge of technology. And his buddy said to the girl, what that means is that he mows the lawn at IBM. Okay, let us take a break. A big one. Oh, I got to tell you about the legal papers that were just mailed. $105 to the United States District Court in Milwaukee to appeal the traitorship of Charles N. Covert Jr., the traitorship to the United States. Boy, it's raining hard now, and I'm just another drip. Look at it, come down. The summonses of about 30 defendants to the United States District Court in Omaha, Nebraska, for the clerk to sign them and emboss them. Send them back to me, and I have to serve them. A $5 money order to appeal bully George C. Dixon. Insane. A letter. $58 to remove the postal box, Box 416, White Plains, New York, 10602. For a year. Every day, money, 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 money. Everybody wants your money. And quite a few of the in-mail details. $5 to Arbor Day. Maybe I've got a list of what had to be done here. $5 to Arbor Day. I can't read you these papers now because I'm in the middle of this 220-page report. A letter to my brother about the cute pictures that he took and of a tape he sent me by Jimmy Dean. Brooklyn again. Crazy people in Brooklyn, that would be Heinemann and Vega and Allman. They keep sending back my papers and will not file them. And they keep saying the case was closed. Well, the case is not closed until a judgment is issued, and no judgment has ever been issued, or at least not to me. the tradership of Charles N. Covert Jr., the tradership to the United States. Boy, it's raining hard now, and I'm just another drip. Look at it come down. The summonses of about 30 defendants to the United States District Court in Omaha, Nebraska, for the clerk to sign them and emboss them. Send them back to me, and I have to serve them. A $5 money order to appeal bully George C. Dixon. Insane. A letter. $58 to renew the postal box, Box 416, White Plains, New York, 10602. For a year. Every day, money, 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 money. Everybody wants your money. And quite a few of the in-mail details. $5 to Arbor Day. Maybe I've got a list of what had to be done here. $5 to Arbor Day. I can't read you these papers now because I'm in the middle of this 220-page report. A letter to my brother about the cute pictures that he took and of a tape he sent me by Jimmy Dean. Brooklyn again. Crazy people in Brooklyn, that would be Heinemann and Vega and Allman. They keep sending back my papers and will not file them. And they keep saying the case was closed. Well, the case is not closed until a judgment is issued, and no judgment has ever been issued, or at least not to me. Okay. And the Securities Exchange Commission, I wrote another letter to William Donaldson, and I told him that I wanted an investigation of Charles F. Dolan and Cablevision Systems Corporation. Because his efforts to keep me a shareholder, out of the annual meeting, his efforts to keep me from seeing the shareholders list, the books, records, and minutes, 107 times. When I'd go to see the books, records, and minutes, he would call the police, the Nassau County Police. I guess that's most of what's gone on before these reports to you. So keep the Kirby's flaming. Isn't that nice? This is the dismal story of a nasty landlord, Nasty Natalia, of Preferred Country Properties in the village of Chatham, and bully town justice, really village justice, in the village of Chatham, George C. Dixon, and his wife, who is the clerk of the same court, and Natalia's liar for hire, James Kleinbaum. And we are up to page 61, and this is Gamma Gamma. After morning chores on March the 29th, Monday, and the first day, for days, that Glendora did not have to pack, load, drive, unload, and position, Glendora began writing her opening statement for the hearing. Hearing is quote-unquote tomorrow night, Tuesday, March the 30th. The same is affixed here too as Exhibit B. Petitioners, and petitioners is quote-unquote because they really had no standing, presented no exhibits 1, 2, 3 at all. It took all morning to write it. It took all afternoon to print it, 40 pages. By twilight, it was finished, and it was ready to serve. Delta Delta. After chores, Glendora went to Chatham and submitted her 40-page opening statement for tonight. The door to the so-called courtroom was open. Nobody was there. Glendora placed it with the complaint of March the 22nd, the 110-page one, affixed there too, into the seat of the chair of George C. Dixon, of the chair to his so-called bench. Bench is quote unquote. From another room, a woman called, "May I help you?" And Glendora told the woman what she'd done, and the woman was pleasantly helpful, and her name is Laura. Next, Glendora walked to Kleinbaum and served a copy on him by leaving it on the first desk of a woman on the telephone. Next, she served the Natalia Enterprise, the 40-page opening statement for tonight, and Glendora opened the office door across from Town Hall and dropped the opening statement on the floor and left. Glendora visited a neighbor. Glendora does not dine out. She likes to know what she is eating, and she's a strict vegetarian. Yea, she's even a vegan. Because nasty Natalia disrupted her home so severely, Glendora was not able to prepare a home meal Sunday, March the 28th morning, nor Monday noon, March the 29th, so she had to eat out. One was $8.44. The other was $8.55. And Natalia is liable for both of these. Epsilon, epsilon. Second phony, bogus, illegal, false call to Chatham Village Court. We're up to page 63. In the afternoon, sans any morning chores, there was time to catch up on some backlogs caused by Natalia's insane behavior. First was some praying, and second were some logs, and third were the devotions missed for 5 days consecutively. 5:30 p.m. Glendora drove to the court. 6 p.m. the door was open. 6:15 p.m. she rapped on the clerk's closet door to get a stamped, dated copy of her opening statement, left on Dixon's chair this morning. Nobody would open up. Glendora could hear both Dixon's voices, and the traffic victims began to arrive, and the plaintiff, that is the village, could produce no corpus delicti, that is, an injured person. The point here, folks, is that if you get picked up for not having a seatbelt, the state has no case against you, because in order to have a case against you, the state has to present an injured party, and you didn't injure anybody by not wearing a seatbelt. That's mandated by common law, meaning the village has no case against these victims. But they don't know that. Glendora rapped 10 minutes later, and nobody would open up. It's now 6:15 p.m., and 5 minutes later, Glendora tried again, and again there was no answer. And this went on for about 4 more tries. The court did not respond. I was trying to get my paper, date stamped. Received. Kleinbaum was there with another client. The client asked Kleinbaum, "How's business?" And Kleinbaum replied with alacrity, "Good." That means people are in trouble. Business is good for lawyers when people are in trouble. When Police Officer McDowell came in, Glendora said, "I want to file this opening statement and get a date stamped copy for me." Said McDowell, "Well, you can do that when you go up." I want to know, why does it have to be so arduous to file papers in the Chatham Village Court? This is an abominable violation of due process. Glendora cannot successfully prosecute her case against an Italian enterprise with such dysfunctionalism. Such ambush is a blatant obstruction of justice. Remedy is demanded. Zeta Zeta. Nobody ever calls a case. The only way that Glendora knows she should approach the bench is she sees Kleinbaum slithering around the bench with Natalia near him, and Kleinbaum talking to Dixon and Dixon responding. That's the only way you know. Why didn't he just call the case? When this was happening, simultaneously, Glendora saw a clerk, Mrs. Dixon, and asked her to date stamp the same paper by Autry on Natalia. You remember his name was Michael Autry, Gene Autry? Michael Autry served the paper on Natalia. Simultaneously, her judge husband said to Glendora, while he pointed to her the opening statement with a March 22nd 110-page affixed to it as Exhibit A, "I'm not going to take this." Dixon should have waited until Glendora was done with the filing before talking to Kleinbaum and listening to Kleinbaum. Glendora cannot do two things at once: file a paper and attend a hearing. And how are the papers? Oh, and here are the papers signed and dated received. There's Mrs. Dixon's. The clerk came out with his paper signed, and Glendora asked the clerk to sign the next paper, and this is the paper that you see as page 71, not marked. And when Clerk Dixon brought back the second paper, she took back the first paper saying, "I have to put the time on this one." Double screen. You have to have two screens. I'm over here trying to file these papers, which I tried to file all day long. And the court is so dysfunctional you can't get them filed. And over here on this screen is Kleinbaum and George Dixon doing things ex parte that aren't good for my case. This account needs a split screen to report what was going on simultaneously with Judge Dixon. First, Glendora was robbed of the time needed to peruse the signature and date. She does not know what this says. Do you know what it says? She was interrupted by Kleinbaum and Judge Dixon about adjournment and vacate, and that's to be reported next. Okay, there's the first volume out of 3. We're going to read 10 more pages, 71 up to 80, because I made the commitment to you that I'd read 20 at a time. Okay. Well, here is the opening statement that Dixon would not receive, and how you're going to adjudicate a case if you don't know what's going on. Now that was signed by his wife, the clerk of the court. And Dixon said that he wouldn't take this paper, and yet she signed it received. That's Glendora's opening statement, which she requests be filed before the hearing of March the 30th. An opening statement is the minimum a litigant is allowed. Glendora wants this statement filed before the hearing on March the 30th, or as soon after as she can be heard. She wants to make sure it is in the record. Let the so-called petitioners state their case and rest, and let Glendora read her opening statement without interruption. That's the first page of it. Should I stop now and read you the opening statement? Well, let's reserve on that, okay? Page 72. Now here is what has happened simultaneously with Kleinbaum and Judge Dixon. Kleinbaum was saying something about adjournment to April the 13th to go with this other case that she brought. That's the case that I brought against Nasty Natalia for April 13th. Dixon said adjournment to the 13th. All right. Something out for that, and he wrote it down. And Glendora was not given time to think whether she wanted to oppose or not. That's pretty bad. Whether it was just or proper. And as it turned out, I should have objected to it, because Dixon did 2 cases in one night. Natalia's phony case against me and my case against Natalia, and that's too much for one night. Particularly for me, all alone, and pounded on by these 3 people. What George Dixon and James Kleinbaum were doing was ex parte. There might have been some other talk while Glendora was so busy getting the papers filed, time and date stamped. But one thing Glendora was able to attend was Kleinbaum ordering the judge to get a statement from Glendora that she vacated. Kleinbaum leads the judge around by the nose. Said George Dixon to Glendora, "Did you vacate?" And he was looking up to her in the eye for the first time that night. Glendora needed time to weigh the matter, to answer, and she said, "Did I vacate?" Looking George Dixon straight in the eye. In unacceptable theatrics, George Dixon put his head down, his arm akimbo, with his hand covering his forehead, and wagged his head left to right. Glendora waited for him to come back to consciousness and look at her, and looking straight at him, she said, "Did I vacate?" "Yes." Now what need was there for this bizarre behavior of George Dixon? His conduct is not equal nor commensurate to the job that is to be done. Justice. He totally fails at the proposed end. Was this all? No. Insert that Glendora heard Kleinbaum say to George Dixon, when mentioning adjournment, something about no more eviction issue. She vacated some damages. Now, is this a court of record? No. This is why Dixon gets by with his outrageous conduct. Glendora was at one end of the table with a bench, quote unquote, filing, and Kleinbaum was at the other end of the table as seeking adjudication. Also insert that while Glendora was sitting in the back of the room waiting to file, Kleinbaum went in and out of the clerk's office freely. If he did, so should have Glendora been able to do the same. On one of these pirouettes, Kleinbaum called Natalia out of the room. Within 2 minutes she was back, and what do you suppose happened? Adjourn it to the 13th and do both together. That's what probably happened. We're on page 74. After "Did you vacate?" Glendora waited to see if anything else was going to happen. Just as there is never any announcement the case is called, there is never any announcement that the hearing is over. Glendora saw Kleinbaum gathering his papers and leaving. So Glendora did the same. Ada. If Glendora had not been ambushed, she would have sternly pointed out again to George Dixon for the 5th time that the petitioners had not given this court jurisdiction over Glendora. What you have read on these last 8 pages has been an abhorrent denial of due process. The Constitution, the Magna Carta, and common law. Does the flag have a yellow fringe around it? No. That is one good thing. If a flag has a yellow fringe around it, folks, remember that means that the court is an admiralty court. And you would have to have committed some international crime. So if you ever go into a court and it has a yellow fringe around it, just tell them that the court has no jurisdiction over you, that it's an admiralty court, and you have not committed an offense on the high seas. Theta Theta, Sixth Amendment violation remedied. Sitting on the bench outside the George Dixon courtroom, which bench was close to the town clerk's office door, Glendora, seeing McDowell going in and out, asked, "May I go in and watch the proceedings?" And McDowell said, "Sure." He's the policeman who, quote unquote, served Glendora but really failed at it. Before Glendora went into the courtroom during the long wait, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. or so, a woman approached Glendora. She says, "I'm Averill. You remember? You met me at the Reformed Church. Is there a problem with Natalia?" I'm not going to talk to her. And Natalia tells me there's a problem. Remember you asked the congregation to pray for Natalia? Glendora did remember, but she would not talk to this woman and indicated saying, "You better think about it, especially after that prayer." She turned and left. What was that all about? She looked Portuguese. That woman, accompanied by a younger woman who looked like her, stayed in the courtroom all the time Glendora was in the courtroom. Back out in the lobby, Glendora sat down and thought a few moments. When she exited Town Hall and descended the stairs, Natalia, on the sidewalk, was talking to Averill and the other female. Glendora had to pass within 3 feet of them. There was no exchange, not even a glance, and Glendora went to the car, waited until they left, checked that she was not being followed, and then drove off into the dark night. This is page 77. This was the second time that Glendora had been fraudulently called to court with no statutory authority. Perpetrators will be fully prosecuted. Kappa Kappa. Bristled by Dixon's ineptitudes and inadequacies, the next morning Glendora began writing an application, this very paper, this instant paper, for George C. Dixon to recuse, pursuant to New York State analog to the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Withdraw that. New York State analog to Title 28 U.S. Code, sections 144 and 354. No American should stand for Dixon's violations of U.S. traditions, interests, and ideals. Every day thereafter, Glendora worked on this paper for 1 hour, the first thing every morning after chores. Yesterday, Monday, Thursday, Holy Week, she decided to sue Dixon. The Natalia Enterprise, Kleinbaum, and the Chatham Police in the United States District Court, Chicago. Violations of civil rights under color of state, Title 42, Section 1983, and Section 1985, conspiracy. She may also sue the same in the United States District Court, Northern District of New York, Albany. She may also sue them in the Supreme Court, State of New York, County of Columbia. Additional causes of actions are Criminal Code, Title 18, U.S. Code, Section 1001, lying and misrepresenting, trickery. I'll read it to you. Sections 1001 of Title 18 of the United States Criminal Code provides as follows. Whoever, in any matter within the jurisdiction of any department or agency of the United States, knowingly and willfully falsifies, conceals, or covers up by any trick, scheme, or device a material fact, or makes any false, fictitious, or fraudulent statements, or representations, or makes or uses any false writing or document knowing the same to contain any false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement or entry, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 5 years or both. And another cause of action against all of these people, the Dixons, Nasty Natalia, Kleinbaum, liar for hire, and the village of Chatham, is fraud. And here's a long dissertation on fraud. It's very, very interesting. That an intentional perversion of truth for the purpose of inducing another in or with some valuable thing belonging to him, or to surrender a legal right, or a false representation of a matter of fact, whether by words or by conduct, by false or misleading allegations, or by concealment of that which should have been disclosed, this is Natalia, which deceives and is material to deceive another, so that he shall set upon it to the legal injury. That's what fraud is. Some of it, and there's more about it. And we are up to page 81. And it's bedtime. All people that on earth do dwell, sing to the Lord with cheerful voice. Him serve with mirth, his praise forth tell. Come ye before him and rejoice. You see how that is? We rejoice every 15 minutes. You and I do that, right? We rejoice about the storm that washed the earth. Yeah. Hi, folks. This is a new day. What are we going to do with it? I am going to stand up for poor tenants who are beaten down by nasty landlords and avaricious lawyers and justices and judges in courts who get a piece of it. nasty landlords and avaricious lawyers and justices and judges in courts who get a piece of it. And in this instant case, the names of those people are Nasty Natalia and Preferred Country Properties in Chatham, the village of Chatham, and her liar for hire, James Kleinbaum, and the judge in this action, who is trying to get a piece of it, is George C. Dixon. And we have a complication that we never had before in a court, that George Dixon's wife is the clerk of the court. And we are reading this 220-page complaint to you, and we are up to page 80, which is pretty good. So now we will do 81 to 100. And do you want to stop for jokes after that? I have some jokes for you. The New York State Real Property Law, the New York State Real Property Actions and Proceedings Law, over 10 counts, including but not limited to violations of warranty of habitability and possession of the premises. Natalia Enterprise further violated the New York State General Obligations Law in not depositing the security deposit in a special account and notifying us of the location of the account and sending us the interest in January 2004. It is a New York State statute that a landlord cannot commingle the security deposit. This is conversion. These forthcoming defendants have got the village of Chatham into deep trouble. Indeed, the said village may also be a defendant. So step forth, Corporation Counsel. Paragraph 315 is reserved. This section is lambda lambda. Jot thoughts. Addenda taken from Glendora, Nasty Natalia blog. Glendora likes seeing people at their best, not their worst. She prays ardently for you, that you will be the perfect people God is calling you to be. This is Holy Week, Good Friday. And I think that we forgot to do our rejoicing at 8:30, so let's do it right now. See if I can remember this hymn. All people who on earth do dwell, sing to the Lord with cheerful voice. Hymn. That's such a nice line. I don't know why I can't remember. Him serve with mirth, his praise forth tell. Come ye before him and rejoice. People get as much justice in the Chatham Village Court as Jesus the Christ got from Pontius Pilate. Glendora's friend George in Maryland, unable to reach her because of phone disconnect, because of moving, because of Nasty Natalia, conclave, called the Chatham Village Police. George McDermott in Washington, D.C. called the Chatham Village Police. They told George that Glendora had been evicted. This is a lie. And it's nothing to sneeze at. Pardon me. This is a lie. Produce a warrant of eviction. There was none. Glendora left voluntarily. She didn't want to be there anymore because of Nasty Natalia and because of the nasty things that go on in the village of Chatham, Columbia County, state of New York. This is also damage to her reputation. Police further told George that Glendora had a few things left to move out, and this is also a lie. Glendora had already emptied the apartment. Glendora had already vacated, and the police are sued for violation of privacy and false reports. April the 9th, 2004, Anno Domini, Good Friday. George Dixon's attitude goes way beyond bias and prejudice. There is hatred in his eyes, indeed in his whole body. But it's more than that, folks. He's going to get a piece of this action. He's going to get a piece of the money. Natalia said one time that cats would stain the linoleum. There is no carpeting in the apartment. Staining linoleum is bizarre. Again, Glendora takes a stand against rings like these: evil landlords, avaricious lawyers, and paid-off judges. They are the rings that are making people homeless. We know for a fact in Albany, from Perry Jones, from the Albany Mission, that 300 to 400 people come there each day to eat, and a couple of hundred people come there each night to sleep. Here is the richest country in the world, and here in Albany, New York, the Mission, feeding 400 homeless a day and sleeping 200 a night. This is caused by people like Nasty Natalia, Liar for Hire James Kleinbaum, and Give Me a Piece of the Action George Dixon. Filing an opening statement is the minimum that a court can do. George Dixon has to file papers, whether he likes it or not. A neighbor's cat was trapped underneath a trailer from Monday, March the 29th to Friday, April the 2nd. A neighbor told Natalia, and Natalia says, "Oh, well, I don't have time to deal with that." That's a typical calloused heart of a nasty landlord. She would have let the cat die. Well, the neighbor was going to call the police, but the cat got up. And this is why Natalia is Nasty Natalia. And what cat was that? The most beautiful one there was? Christina, Fluffy, the great big fluffy 3-inch fur calico kitty. So beautiful. White, orange, black, brown. There was no basis for Natalia eviction on the basis of non-payment. Glendora does not have to pay $135 or $185 to fix Natalia's furnace. A landlord has to pay for the furnace. The tenant doesn't pay. And Glendora did not have to pay $26 to fix Natalia's sink drain. Glendora does not have to pay for water in an apartment. Glendora does not have to pay for water when she was never told up front. Non-payment is a lie. Petitioners, and that's in quotes, must be prosecuted for fraud upon the court. Is this a court of record? No. No record. Can you imagine that? No record? That's why Dixon can say any fool thing he wants and thinks he's going to get away with it. Does the Natalia petition, and petition is in quotes because it's fatally defective, have a case number yet? That night court is bad. Glendora does not like being out after dark. The nights here are so black. Glendora rejoices that Natalia, conclave, has not dropped the case. Glendora wants to see these lawbreakers in other courts, and she wants to see them prosecuted to their full extent. If George Dixon is unable to read Glendora's papers, can he get somebody to read them to him? Page 86. Why should Dixon go into an access of fury because Glendora asked if he was saying, "Did I vacate the premises?" Why should he go into an access of fury? If Dixon had filed Glendora's papers and done his homework and read them, he would know that Glendora had vacated the premises. But he's not interested in that. All he's interested in is a piece of what he can get by with. Dixon takes his cue from the lawyer. Is Dixon bought? Does this have anything to do with large campaign contributions from the Natalia Enterprise and from Kleinbaum? Picket! Glendora has to picket the Natalia conclave. bad landlord. George Dixon's irascibility, pugnacity, unreasonableness, tyranny, autocracy obstruct justice. To adjourn Natalia's action to April 13th should have been in the form of a motion, and Glendora should have had an opportunity to oppose, and she didn't. It was supposed to be a hearing, and hearing is in quotes, because it wasn't. Illegally called as it was, but Glendora did not get a chance to say anything. She was busy filing her papers that she asked 6 times to file before the hearing. George Dixon demoralizes the public's court to a fiefdom. That's what he thinks he's got. He has a fiefdom. Natalia's claim of damages, Kleinbaum mentioned near March the 30th, is just another harassment. Glendora told Chatham police on March the 25th, Thursday at 12:15 p.m., that she wanted to press charges against Natalia and Ed for trespassing, and she wanted them prosecuted. Chief Bohm said he would ask the DA. Well, nobody has ever got back to Glendora. This is nonfeasance and malfeasance, and it's outright collusion. 88. Glendora further sues the village of Chatham for failure to see that the walk along Center Street by the Blue Plate restaurant going to Crellin Park was not cleared of snow. It was 4 feet high with snow and ice and could not be safely ambulated. Pedestrians had to walk in the road, a very dangerous road, narrow, blind curves, and on a hill. Sidewalk-free speech deserves and gets the utmost protection. Glendora wants to picket Natalia, nasty Natalia, bad landlord, but the village of Chatham does not have a sidewalk in front of the 4 storefronts where Natalia's real estate business is, Preferred Country Properties. If you go to Chatham, watch out for Preferred Country Properties. Have no dealings with them. 16 Central Square. Glendora requests the police traffic supervisor when she pickets the Natalia lawbreakers. All defendants are accessories. Their intent is to defeat justice. Their intent is to defeat justice. 89. Moo moo. That's the Greek letter. It's not a cow. On April the 13th, 04, Neshin and bully George Dixon continues betraying America. His wife, Joanne Dixon, the clerk, joins him. Natalia defendants and her lawyer, Kleinbaum, defendant in this lawsuit, also join in as accomplices and accessories. Dixon did an en masse oath. He had Glendora and Natalia swear under penalty that they were telling the truth as a group. Glendora objects to this. Each should have taken the oath individually. Kleinbaum kept handing exhibits to Dixon before showing them to Glendora. This is a violation. Glendora has the right to see the exhibits first, to object, whatever they should be admitted. When Glendora objected, bully Dixon hollered at her in a threatening voice and went on violating Glendora's rights to see the perverse exhibits, to see them first before they were admitted into court. As evidence, Kleinbaum was handing in exhibits to Dixon in a cascade and not giving copies to Glendora. Glendora pointed this out, and Kleinbaum hopped up and went 10 feet to the court's copy machine, 10 feet from the judge's, my bench, quote unquote, which is just a table, and helped himself promiscuously to making copies. Kleinbaum, the lawyer, is making the village of Chatham pay for his copies that he should have had and presented to Glendora long before this so-called hearing. The exhibit pictures were very poor quality, made by a computer. Many of them were so black Nothing in them could be distinguished. Natalia presented estimates of repairs, unsigned. She had no second or third estimates. She did not produce witnesses Glendora could examine as to the honesty of such prices. Natalia had no witnesses. Everything she presented was conclusory. Everything Natalia presented was hearsay. Glendora pointed this out to Dixon. Glendora's examination of Natalia was consistently splattered by Kleinbaum and Dixon in cahoots, that is, collusion. You know, we'll rip this widow off, and you get a third of it, and I'll get a third of it, and Natalia will get a third of it. This is what the situation is. Natalia did not dare to answer without looking at Kleinbaum as to what to say. She was hesitant, stammering, and a dumbrel. Kleinbaum kept chattering, irrelevant. Dixon kept sustaining Kleinbaum's objections. No matter what information Glendora was revealing, Dixon kicked the dirt all over it. Dixon's job is to ascertain the truth. One could not be more disqualified for this duty. Natalia lied that she signed the lease in front of Glendora. She wasn't even there on June the 27th, 03. She was out trying to sell a house. She was on the phone, and she was very tense because she was showing property and trying to make a sale. And my friend Bruce Bergstrom was there with me and saw all that. 8:45 it is, or 8:50, and we are going to rejoice. Well, I'm happy that we've been called to expose this profligate situation in the village of Chatham, Columbia County, state of New York. A collusive judge who's trying to get money, an avaricious lawyer who is trying to get money, and a nasty landlord, Natalia, who also is trying to get money. It is, of course, a RICO. And it is, of course, in violation of Criminal Code, Title 18, United States Code 1001, misrepresenting, lying, and cheating by these three, punishable by a fine and jail, not more than 5 years. Natalia lied that she sent Glendora a copy of the lease. She never did. This very night of this so-called hearing, in quotes, April the 13th, Tuesday at 7:45 p.m. was the first that Glendora ever saw the lease. With no proof at all, and with no witnesses, Natalia intoned that Glendora's cats left feces outside around the property. Glendora asked, well, did you see the cats deposit the feces? Dixon said to Glendora, do you have cats? Glendora said, no. Dixon said to Glendora, do you have cats? Glendora said, no. 10 minutes later, Dixon said, did you have cats? Glendora said, yes. Dixon jumped all over Glendora. He couldn't remember the do you from the did you, and he became rude, crude, offensive, and illegal. 93 page. Glendora had 2 cats, but when she moved, she laid them in custody of their godmother. Later, Glendora explained that she had 2 cats, that they were indoor cats, that they did not deposit the feces alleged. Natalia claimed odor from the cats outdoors. In examination, Glendora asked Natalia, how do you prove odor? Natalia did not know. Kleinbaum and Dixon did not know. One sputtered objection and the other sputtered sustained, adding the customary acerbity and loud voice. Natalia's autumnal pictures proved nothing. They never dealt with as to what time frame. One of them showed two cats sitting at the back door. Now what did that prove? Natalia's claims were frivolous, unsubstantial, exaggerated, avaricious, retaliatory, and fraudulent. Dixon has no personal knowledge. He should have visited the premises in June 2003 before occupancy and seen what the condition of the property was. And he should have visited the premises on March 29, 2004 after vacating. Under penalty of perjury, Glendora avers that she caused no damage to the rental. Even normal wear and tear cannot be charged. So you see, everything that Dixon heard was hearsay. He has no personal knowledge. Glendora paid out $200 to do what Greedy Natalia Group should have done before they sold possession of the premises to Glendora. They should have cleaned out the broken limbs and branches in the rear. They should have fixed the wobbly railing. You would take hold of the railing and it would just go like that. It was no good to poor Franklin. They should have secured the wobbling stairs going into the apartment. 2 steps. You'd step on them, they go here, there, and everywhere. And they were floating all over the place. And that's another hazard to the tenants and a violation of warranty of habitability. And they should have fixed the stuck bathroom door. It was a sliding door and it was stuck and you couldn't close the bathroom door. They should have fixed that. Glendora did not put any hole behind these stairs in the so-called scrim. Apparently it was there in June 2003 and hidden by the peripatetic stairs. When the stairs were moved to be more secure and stable, this uncovered a hole. When Glendora came in July, she and the kids noticed another hole behind the back stairs. And there was a hole on the east scrim dug out of the ground. Glendora did not cause any of these holes. They were there. The burden of proof is on Natalia. Natalia Dixon Kleinbaum ambushed Glendora. They should have given her a bill of particulars of what they were going to present. What these 3 did was ambush. And in courts, in America, ambush is not allowed. Glendora could ask for a rehearing on this basis. But while Dixon Glendora chooses not to inflict damage on herself the way he does, in other words, sadomasochism. Dixon repetitively, with apoplectic face, shook his finger at Glendora and pointed his finger at Glendora. And Glendora asked, "Do you have to point your finger at me?" This escalated him into further rage. He acquiesced that he did, and then he pointed it all the harder. Glendora made a note on her pad at what time this Canon 3A violation occurred, and Dixon looked at his watch and sarcastically said, "It's 7:54 p.m. The estimate for 2 new doors not damaged by Glendora and for which Natalia is hoping to get a free ride was by Ed Russell, the technician. She calls him a technician. He's a handyman who put the sink faucet on backwards. Back in September, when Glendora and Natalia were friends, Glendora told Natalia how she had the tree branches removed. She paid the roofers doing the Blue Plate restaurant to remove the tree branches. And now she had the wobbly railing treated, and how she had the peripatetic stairs secured, and how she had the bathroom door made to open and shut, And she was not asking for reimbursement. She was telling Natalia as woman talk. Glendora told her how she paid $20 for an hour. And Natalia lamented, I can get people to do it for $10 an hour. In court, Natalia, hoping to rip off Glendora, made Ed's hourly rate not $10 an hour that he was used to, but $15 an hour. Glendora was confronted about the list of damages, and Glendora was confused with them. They were so preposterous and non-existent that she asked for the list again. Neither Dixon nor Kleinbaum would cooperate. Glendora asked, may I have, and we're on page 98, it was too wet to go outdoors and videotape this morning after that big thunderstorm yesterday. You remember hearing that? Glendora asked, may I please go to the bathroom? Dixon talked over her and would not answer. So Glendora looked at clerk Mrs. Dixon and asked, may I please go to the bathroom? She was silent and with her eyes motioned to her husband. Dixon said, we'll take a recess and try to clean up some of these other cases. Glenn got up to leave. Dixon said with his customary graciousness, ma'am, clean your papers off the table. We need room. Insert. Natalia was sitting side by side, Glendora's 2 chairs away. Okay? And Kleinbaum was at the head of the table, of course. Dixon was across the chairs that were between Glendora and Natalia, and Mrs. Dixon was at the end of her table. So during her examination of Natalia, Glendora could not see Natalia's face. Natalia was looking at Kleinbaum or at Dixon. It is patently important to see a witness's face. Only a right cheek view should never have been allowed. 99. Narrative testimony should have been invoked. Glendora told Dixon that the 2 cats sitting on the back stairs were not her cats. Back from the bathroom, Glendora waited for Dixon to finish with tickets and heard Dixon say, your son can't drive your car unless someone over 21 is in it. So the man says, oh, I'm sorry, I thought the boy was 21. He was only 20. So, of course, he got by with that. Kleinbaum used the recess to make more copies. Said Glendora to him, is the village paying for these copies you are making? Said Kleinbaum, I don't know who is paying for them. A lie. This is typical lawyer lack of accountability. Glendora asked Dixon to repeat the list of damages, and he would not. We're up to page 100. Glendora said, I do not understand what is going on here. When a judge says to the defendant, do you understand the judge's charges? And the defendant says no, then the defendant immediately wins on appeal. So I made it very clear. I don't understand what's going on here. Glendora did not say this, of course. Dixon would have gone into an apoplectic stroke. But they got the message and recited the list. The first is that Glendora, tenant, should pay $183 to repair the landlord's furnace. and $26 to repair the landlord's sink drain. Recall, it took Natalia 9 days to replace the kitchen sink washer. At 33 degrees, Glendora could not wait 9 days for heat. And we are up to page 101, and there we will resume after we all take a refresher. And this is 9 o'clock, and we're going to keep our faith, and all during the day, every 15 minutes, we try to rejoice about something. I rejoice for the sunshine today. Not every day is rain. And how beautifully God washed the earth. And I rejoice how diligently God is trying to wash the village of Chatham, County of Columbia, State of New York. Evil, nasty, dirty things are going on there. People with no conscience, people with total moral laxitude, ripping off the public, 20 to 30 people every week. And I am glad that God is washing clean Chatham with this action. Amen. What do report cards teach a parent? What do report cards teach a parent? You don't have to lift dumbbells. No, you don't have to lift weights to raise a dumbbell. And the customer said to the waitress, "What kind of ice cream do you have?" And she says, "Vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry." He says, "You sound hoarse. Do you have laryngitis?" And she says, "No, just vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry." Why was the little shoe crying? His mother was a sneak and his daddy was a loafer. And one woman calls her son Halley's Comet. He comes around only every 75 years. The lady in the taxi cab said, "Driver, can you back up 2 miles?" And he says, "Why?" And she says, "I don't have enough money to pay for this." Two women are walking down the street and they come to a haberdasher shop, and the sign in the window says, "Sale on shirts for men with 17 to 18 necks." And one woman says, "That's too many necks for a man to have." And the honeymoon couple came home and he says, "We have to settle down, dear. Do you want to be the president or the vice president?" She says, "Oh, you can be both, dear. I'll just be the treasurer." The teacher says, "How do you spell rose?" And the little boy says, "B-R-O-S-E." And the teacher says, "There's no B in rose." And the little boy says, "There wasn't no one I smelled." A man called up the city editor and he said, "You have put me in the obituary column and I'm alive." And the city editor was truly sorry, and he said, "What can I do to correct that?" He says, "I know, tomorrow I'll put you in a birth column." And a mother left her cute little daughter with two elderly ladies, for the elderly ladies to look out for her for a minute or two while she went and did an errand. And as the two elderly ladies and the little daughter sat in the room, one of the ladies said to the other, "She's not very P-R-E-T-T-Y, is she?" And the little girl says, "No, but very S-M-A-R-T. We are reading the terrible story of a greedy landlord named Natalia, Nasty Natalia, in the village of Chatham, County of Columbia, State of New York. And her liar for hire, James Kleinbaum, and of the village judge, who is a bully and who gives signals all over the place that he's going to get part of this big judgment he's trying to get Glendora to pay. And we are up to page 101 out of 220. With the floor under the sink filling up with water, Glendora could not wait 9 days to replace the sink drain. The next avaricious claim was that Glendora must pay technician, he's the handyman, Ed, who put the kitchen faucet back on backwards. She must pay him to replace the front and back doors. Glendora asseverates under penalty of perjury she did not harm either door, except for normal wear and tear. The doors were well taken care of. Greedy Natalia claimed $435 rent for April, May, and June equals $1,305. Well, Natalia broke any contractual relation with her 3-day notice to vacate. When she said vacate in 3 days, that was a transgression of the contract and a nullification of it. So Glendora did vacate in just about 3 days, gladly. And also the fact that there was no lease, because Natalia never served Glendora with a lease, never signed a lease, and served it with her. There was no contract. Dixon says, what 3-day notice? And Dixon didn't even know about it. These people, Natalia and James Kleinberg, serve a notice, or they don't serve, but they make an attempt to serve a notice on Glendora to vacate in 3 days, and they never gave the court a copy. Kleinbaum had to explain it to the judge. Further, there was no lease obligation because Natalia never gave Glendora a copy of the lease. Lydia never gave Glendora a copy of the lease with her signature, and there was no contract. Natalia was not trying to sell a house when Natalia was out trying to sell a house when Glendora signed the lease and handed to her by a new employee. Bruce Bergstrom, Glendora's friend, witnessed all this in Natalia's office. Lydia was not there. And during the cross-exam, Natalia lied under oath. Ergo, no, $1,305 is owing. The next avarice and fraud was Natalia trying to get Glendora to pay the water bill of $128.61. Natalia never made it clear during negotiations that she would have to pay for water. This is a fraud on her part, and she must pay the water. Who ever heard of an apartment renter paying for water? This apartment was listed in the newspaper under apartments for rent, and when Glendora called Lydia for information, Lydia said nothing about paying for water, nor did Natalia on 2 subsequent meetings and telephone calls. Also a fraud was not telling Glendora during negotiations Natalia expected Glendora to pay heat. This came to $500, and Glendora is suing Natalia for the same in the instant case in this court, United States District Court, Chicago. Barracuda Natalia thinks she is going to get $2,380 in thieving damages. And recall, court, in Chicago, Dixon has no personal knowledge of these damages, even though the rental is just across the square and down the hill 2 lots from him. He does not show due diligence. Point is that he could go down there and see if these damages are real and get personal knowledge of them, but he didn't. Further, there was no lease obligation because Natalia never gave Glendora a copy of the lease. Now we are up to page 104. Natalia had no latch nor lock to the outside door to the porch all the time that Glendora lived there. Glendora asked for the index number to this case, and since she had never been given one, one of the multitude of errors making the petition, and that's in quotes, fatally defective, 040-30021. When asked for a receipt for the $20 filing fee for this case, neither George, Joanne, James, nor Natalia could produce one. They really got caught. What does this tell you, United States District Court, Chicago? There never was a case. What is the date of the index number? March the 23rd. The totally defective petition was illegally put in the door handle March the 18th. The case is non-existent. U.S. District Court, Chicago. Okay. They serve, quote unquote, a petition on Glendora on March the 18th, And the case isn't even in the court until March the 23rd. Before the hearing, Glendora asked to see wife clerk Joanne Dixon. Husband Judge Dixon said, she's busy. Before the hearing, Glendora asked George Dixon to see the file jacket. And George Dixon says, the what? And Glendora says, the folder on this case. He said, not now. Glendora never has seen it. The court is closed all week except 6 to 9 p.m. on Tuesdays. And 6 to 9 p.m. Tuesdays, the clerk is too busy to see you. Now here are Natalia's, nasty Natalia's fraudulent exhibits. We are up to page 105. External kitchen door, vertical crack due to abuse. I don't see any vertical crack, do you? I think this is, I see a few vertical cracks between the ears on Natalia. And Glendora says, what does EXT stand for? There was no other kitchen door. The door opened to the living room. Did anybody see abuse? Are there any witnesses? Do you have any before pictures, before and after? Prove it is not normal wear and tear. And I don't find the crack yet, do you? What's this say, folks? External kitchen door vertically cracked by tenant. I say IBID as to page 106, the thing I just read you. Did you see the tenant crack the door? Did anybody else? It's the landlord who was cracked. Okay, 108. External kitchen door vertical crack close-up. Well, I fail to see it. You see it? And it looks like this is a copying mistake, and another exhibit is, a so-called exhibit is this. Well, can you see the crack anywhere? Did you see the abuse happen? Did anybody else see it? Do you have, please, excuse me, do you have any before pictures, before and after pictures? Well, Glendora has the same thing to say to that. Do you have any before and after pictures? Did you see it happen, or did anybody else see it happen? Prove illegally. What's that refer to? Okay, prove illegally. Lydia said 2 cats are okay. These are not my cats. This picture does not prove they were housed. What does housed mean? The window in that door did not work. Prove these are just 2 of 5 cats illegally housed. Now here comes her water bills. Did you ever hear of an apartment renter paying water? No. Isn't she avaricious? Isn't this sleaze? Water bill. Water bill. She did not tell me when we discussed the apartment during the negotiations in the middle of June. She did not tell me anything about saying water. If she had, I would have said thank you, goodbye. And she did not tell me anything about paying for heat. And if she had, I would have said thank you and goodbye. In 49 years of married life, Franklin and I never paid for heat and hot water. We would never live in such a place. Now she's this technician that she calls, whom I say who I say is a handyman. Okay, $600 to fix the doors. These doors that there's no proof that the tenant harmed. So, page 119. Glendora made notes on Dixon's accesses fits of fury. Kleinbaum, handing exhibits to the court first instead of to the defendant Glendora, stood up for the right way to do it. Dixon blew up. That was at 7:15 p.m. Dixon fit of passion to Glendora. Are you colorblind? That's what he said to me. Are you colorblind? And we weren't talking about color. 7:38 p.m., temper fit interrupted Glendora. Is this a court of record? Glendora says. No, it's a court of justice. Glendora said to herself, well, I've seen no sign of it so far. 7:56 p.m., Dixon was hollering at Glendora that he would not be intimidated and not be abused. Well, Glendora has no idea what started that harangue. That's when he looked at his watch in mockery of Glendora looking at her watch and said it's 7:54. Circa 8:15 p.m., Dixon was shaking and pointing his finger at Glendora. She asked him, do you have to point your finger at me? And I was recoiling, and his attitude was yes, and he shook it all the harder. Now, on page 120, paragraph 479, did Dixon allege Glendora was intimidating him? He had been intimidating her since March the 23rd. His oversensitivity to these imagined invasions reveals his inferiority complex, covered with layers and layers of bullyism and frontal attacks and temper tantrums. It sinks to buffoonery and to Gilbert and Sullivan. Satire. Dixon quickly slips into sarcasm. When Glendora asked the four, Natalia, Kleinbaum, George Dixon, and Joanne Dixon, to produce a copy of the receipt that Natalia and Kleinbaum had paid the $20 filing fee, they could not. Dixon failed with, how do you think they got on my calendar? I want to see a receipt, okay? I want to see the receipt. Yes, Glendora wonders that too. How did they get on the calendar? Okay, we're up to page 121. And what will we do for rejoicing? Let's try to sing that song again. We missed it. We should have done it at 2 o'clock. The song. All people who on earth do dwell, sing to the Lord with cheerful voice. Serve him with mirth, his praise forth tell. Come ye before him and rejoice. So we're on the right track. We'll see you in a little while. We could go videotape this outdoors, folks. It's nice enough. Dixon is not overly endowed with the acquired graces that pass socially. Dixon violates Canon 3A, a judge must be patient and courteous to litigants. Dixon was viciously impatient and discourteous. Finally, Glendora interjected her point again. Petitioners have not given this court in personam jurisdiction over Glendora. This court does not have jurisdiction over Glendora. Service has not been pursuant to the New York State Real Property Actions and Proceedings Law, which mandates in personam service, service by regular mail, and nail and mail. What section? Dixon asked. Glendora says, I can look it up. Kleinbaum. Here we've already presented our case and she's bringing that up. Glendora said the petitioners had not given the court jurisdiction over her the first night the so-called hearing of March 23rd, 7:15 p.m. circa. She mentioned the New York State Real Property Actions and Proceedings Law then, as this record clearly proves, and she also told Dixon that night that the petition was fatally defective. Furthermore, in the complaint that I handed in that night, or tried to hand in, and Dixon refused to take, in violation of the First Amendment, it was in there too. And then it was in the opening statement of March the 30th. He refused to take that. So there's 3 times. Actually, it totaled up to 6. Also that night when Kleinbaum flagellated, here is Mike McDowell's, that's the cop, affidavit of personal service. Glendora said it was not personal service. He never saw Glendora, and he did not affix it to the door. Further that night, Glendora said if petitioner's claim service was adequate, she wanted a Travis hearing. A Travis hearing, you know, where you examine the process server, and people can easily see whether he's lying or not. When Dixon reserved March the 13th and the hearing was adjourned to March the 30th, Dixon and Kleinbaum were doing ex parte while Glendora stood at the bench trying to get her papers filed and date stamped that she had tried 6 times to do before the hearing on 3/30 and was blocked. She did not have an opportunity to participate in the flutter about adjourning to April the 13th before Dixon did adjourn. Dixon did adjourn, and she could have reiterated no jurisdiction. That's when I could have said it again. But he went ex parte with Kleinbaum and didn't give me the opportunity to say that. So Kleinbaum was lying when he said Glendora was wrong to bring it up on April 13th. Glendora protested. When did I have a chance to say anything? She was constantly interrupted by either Dixon or Kleinbaum. Again, Kleinbaum was lying. Here's the affidavit of personal service. It was not personal service, and if sworn to be so, was sworn under penalty of perjury. Glendora again said April the 13th that she wanted a Travis hearing. Soon after this, Dixon announced, I reserve. Glendora asked, would the decision come by mail? Dixon indicated it would. In a couple of weeks, he said when he could. Then he took care of some of the other cases that were waiting. Call this guy in, he said. That was at 8:10 p.m. That was Steve, about his son driving without a 21-year-old in the car. Dixon's treatment of Glendora versus Nasty Natalia, case number 040-30029. So here we are on April the 13th. The first case has been what you have just perceived it to be. I know that you're perceiving it correctly. And now comes my case, Glendora versus Nasty Natalia, brat sister Lydia, mother Maria, father, brother Carlos, and preferred country properties. These are all people in Chatham, and when you go to Chatham, watch out for all of them. Dixon never calls cases. You just have to watch to see when Natalia and Kleinbaum go to the bench, that is, the table. Instantly, Kleinbaum started saying, we object to this case, we object to these names, Nasty Natalia, brat sister Lydia. Oh, wait a minute. Who addresses the court first? The plaintiff or the defendant? This is my case. I'm the plaintiff. You can't believe, well, I know you do believe how bad these people are. Who addresses the court first? The plaintiff or the defendant? Here is the defendant addressing the court first. Both Dixon and Kleinbaum are so procedurally deficient, they didn't even notice the anomaly. Dixon said to Kleinbaum, but she has preferred country properties, or something like that. He never did get it straight, the name of the petitioner. Kleinbaum did not answer. Kleinbaum said just asking for personal damages was not clear enough, and Glendora said that the action was filed under the auspices of the clerk. That would be Dixon's wife, Joanne Dixon. She was interrupted by both Kleinbaum and George Dixon, and if there was anything wrong with it, Glendora was trying to say, the clerk would have told her. Glendora was jumped on by the clerk, Kleinbaum, and Dixon. The clerk, Joanne Dixon, wife of the village justice, lied. She said, I told her it wouldn't fly. Well, she never did that, folks. Glendora said, you said to me that addressing it to Nasty Natalia would not go through the mail, and it would come back, and I said, I'll have it served by a person, but you did not say anything about personal damage. At that point, Glendora was not going to sue Joanne Dixon, but now it is clear she is collusive with George Dixon, James Kleinbaum, and Nasty Natalia. She is also an accessory before and after the fact. It is the record that Glendora was blocked from showing the court her personal damages. The 14-page ad damnum affixed here too. Wait a second, folks. Let me just get up and show this to you. You're there? Are you still there? Okay, it's in many other boxes. But it was a 14-page ad damnum. Glendora was robbed of her right to speak first, to open, to make her statement. Kleinbaum spoke first. The personal damages are fully delineated in her 14-page ad damnum, and George Dixon does not know what it means. What ad damnum? Plain English! Dixon looked at Glendora. Glendora said, here is my ad damnum. She gave a copy each to Dixon, Natalia, and Kleinbaum. With hostility, Dixon said to Glendora, plain English. Then he said, what is this? Glendora, the damages she owes me. Then she started reading them, item by item, aloud. Dixon interrupted, plain English, I can't read this. Glendora says, I'm reading it to you. Pushing his copy toward Glendora, Dixon says, typewrite it. Glendora says, the Declaration of Independence is not typewritten. Then he mumbled something about a motion to dismiss, and the dismissal granted. It was approximately 4 minutes after it started. Well, I'm so glad I've got a chance to tell you this. Think how many years this rot has been going on, and people have been too afraid to stand up to it. Forthcoming. Glendora turned to his wife, the clerk, and said, Madam Clerk, do you have an appeals form? What is the name of the court I appeal to? The county court. Kleinbaum starts answering the questions that Glendora asks the clerk. Where is it? Allen Street in Hudson. Later, Glendora got the address as 401 Union Street in Hudson. Kleinbaum was butting in all of the time, as he always does. What is the telephone number, Glendora asked Clerk Joanne Dixon. Kleinbaum said, 828-3339. Joanne Dixon said to Glendora, 828-3339. How much is the filing fee? Glendora asked Clerk Dixon. And she answered $5. Glendora gathered all of her papers and put them in the big Staples box that 10 reams of copy paper come in, and left the room. Only Joanne Dixon, nobody else was in the room but Joanne Dixon, George Dixon, Natalia, and Kleinbaum, and Cop McDowell. And they were all available to do all of the ex parte and collusion that they wanted. I left them alone to do it at 8:25 p.m. Dixon should have closed the court, emptied the court, and locked the doors at that point. But did he? No, they all sat around and did their ex parte. Just yesterday, Glendora discovered that Madam Clerk spells her name Joanne, J-O-A-N-N-E. Up until yesterday, the paper she signed looked like Joanne Dixon, J-O-A-N-N. Glendora could not read her writing, and then she found this in the lobby, and so that told me. Notice that the mayor is the brother of the chief of police, and notice that the clerk of the village court is a wife